Strange gates from other dimensions suddenly appear across the earth, each one with a countdown. When the timers hit 0, monstrous creatures known as infernal beasts pour out, leveling cities and destroying everything in their path. Cities fall, armies fall, and humanity stands on the brink of extinction. But from the chaos, new heroes known as the players arise, who are granted special powers through mysterious bronze, silver, and gold doors. With their collective abilities, they manage to eliminate all the infernal beasts and restore peace. But before the world can breathe a sigh of relief, a massive countdown appears in the sky, and from it descends a dragon so powerful that even the strongest players are wiped out. The world is now on the brink of collapse again, but then a lone figure named Subaru steps forward. He is the only one chosen by the mythical Rainbow Door, and holds a power unlike anything seen before. With rainbow-colored eyes and a mighty sword, he leaps forward and slays the giant dragon in one single hit. The crowd and the rest of the players cheer for him, but Subaru recalls his gruesome past, where he was a nobody and was hated by everyone. Many years ago on a fateful day, Subaru is hanging by the skin of his teeth. He has been completely battered and humiliated by a bunch of goons, probably for his dressing style. As he bleeds from almost all parts of his body, the mysterious rainbow door with 5 stars appears in front of him. Subaru immediately realizes that the door has appeared for a reason and that it can change his life. He reaches for the handle and uses every ounce of remaining strength in his body to open it. Subaru has received such a harsh beating that both his legs have been torn off from his body, and now he has to use his hands to crawl. When the thugs notice this, they charge towards him to stop him from entering the mysterious door. They have even resorted to finishing him off for good, so he won't escape and cause trouble for them later on. But Subaru isn't going to let this opportunity pass, as he reveals that this is the second time such a door has appeared in front of him. The first time, this loser didn't take it seriously, and now he's paying the price heavily. As soon as Subaru presses the handle of the door, it swings open, and a massive wave of energy engulfs him, causing him immense pain, but he is determined to get through the door. Subaru thinks to himself that this door is his only chance at redemption, and he is going inside it one way or another, even if it costs his life. The thugs are closing in on him, but an unyielding Subaru continues to march on like a wounded soldier. Another flashback shows a 15-year-old Subaru chilling in the living room with his younger brother, Tega. A news channel announces that today's guest is Japan's first gold player, the popular and much adored Mr. Hirasaka. Subaru's face lights up when he sees his idol on TV, and he keeps shouting like that annoying kid who won't shut up when his iPad dies mid-cocomelon. But this only annoys Tega, and he asks his brother to shut up so he can watch the news in peace. Subaru is hurt by his rude words and asks him to be polite, but Tega makes it clear that they aren't brothers by blood, so he shouldn't act like one. Subaru is almost reduced to tears while the news report continues, where it is revealed that there was a massive infernal gate incident yesterday. One of such gates appeared in a vacant house, and nobody could track it until an infernal creature came out and wreaked havoc in the city. A total of 63 people died while hundreds more were injured, along with millions in infrastructural damage. Mr. Hirasaka, who has a great deal of knowledge on this topic, begins to explain everything in detail like he's some sort of walking Wikipedia with main character energy. He reveals that sealed within these gates are infernal creatures, which are immune to any man-made weapons, making them invincible to us. Each door has a timer that slowly ticks down to the monsters breakout, unleashing hell. Hirasaka continues that the only people who can stop this disaster are the players chosen by the Door of Trials. Their task is to track the infernal gates and raid them before the timer runs out and the monsters emerge. Hirasaka then expresses his sorrow that 63 innocent people perished yesterday in what could have been an avoidable incident. It is revealed that Hirasaka was the one who slayed the beast with the help of his magical sword. He is still distraught that he couldn't find the gate on time to prevent the beast from escaping in the first place. The news reporter, however, applauds his alpha energy and showers non-stop praises like an obsessed fan, saying the situation could have been much worse had he not acted on time. She says that it is because of players like Hirasaka that the citizens of this country can live peacefully, knowing they have a savior amongst them. Hirasaka then urges everyone to immediately report to the authorities if they find an infernal gate, so that another disaster can be prevented. He promises to protect the citizens from the infernal creatures, even if it means putting his own life on the line. Little Subaru is pumped up by the speech and jumps in excitement, forgetting the fact that he was just picked on by his younger brother a while back. Hirasaka, meanwhile, continues his speech by revealing how all of this chaos and destruction began. It was 5 years ago when several infernal gates appeared in different parts of the world. Then the creatures came out, which were immune to the advanced weaponry humans had on Earth. Just when it appeared that human civilization would end, a bunch of superhuman beings showed up and wiped out the infernal creatures one after another. These heroes were chosen by the Door of Trials, and they were known as players. The doors were ranked bronze, silver, and gold, with gold players being the strongest of them all. These players were not only regarded as saviors of humanity, but also received an exuberant amount of rewards and status with each raid. Back at the news studio, the reporter questions what kind of people are chosen by the Door of Trials, to which Hirasaka says only the ones with a powerful glow in their spirits are chosen. Taiga scoffs at this statement and says Subaru will never be a player because there's not even a flicker of spirit in that guy. But when he turns around, he's left in complete disbelief as a golden door of trial has just appeared before Subaru. Both the brothers freeze in shock, like their mom just found their search history, and Subaru slowly moves towards it. But his movements are like a sloth, and by the time he makes it to the handle, his arrogant brother comes running and shoves him away from there. With a sinister smile, Taiga then opens the door and goes through it, despite not being the chosen one. 3 years later, 18-year-old Subaru's pathetic life has only gone downhill. He has been strung on a giant spider web in college, and a bunch of bullies are taking turns throwing rocks at him like target practice. One of them is about to aim for his head when a completely transformed Taiga appears, sending the bullies running away from there. This Taiga now looks immensely powerful, his senses have improved, and he also has a hot girlfriend. Another flashback reveals that 3 years earlier, Taiga came out of the door alive, making him the youngest golden player ever. In the present, Taiga is disgusted to see his brother in such a miserable condition, hanging like a low-budget Spider-Man. He adds more salt to the injury by declaring that he doesn't care anymore since they aren't brothers by blood anyway. Taiga then decides to take things a step further. He grabs a rock and begins swinging his golden arm, creating a massive wave of energy which engulfs the room. He pretends to aim at his brother, but then changes course at the last second and hits the clouds, evaporating them completely. Although poor Subaru breathes a sigh of relief, he has soiled his pants, adding to his humiliation. Taiga then heads off with his girlfriend, saying he couldn't care less even if his brother dies. A while later, a clothless Subaru is lying on the ground in an unconscious state while a bunch of girls click pictures of him. To them, he isn't just the laughingstock of the school, he's a creature stripped of any dignity he once had. That night, a news report states that Taiga destroyed 4 infernal gates before the timers could run out. He is a national sensation, and his parents are extremely proud that he's doing all this at a young age. But things are completely different for Subaru, who is regarded as a failure by his parents and lives in a small shack outside the family mansion. What's worse is that Taiga has kept him like a servant and often orders him to get supplies for his lavish lifestyle. On one such errand, Subaru contemplates his miserable life and thinks about what could have happened had he gone through that golden door 3 years ago. He has now become a laughingstock in his family, and it is only a matter of time before he succumbs to his brutal lifestyle. Unfortunately, the night only gets worse as he is approached by the bullies from earlier, who turn out to be bronze players. They claim that they are tired of all the monster hunting and now want to have some actual fun. These bullies want to toy with Subaru and eventually finish him off, as his little brother has already given them the green light. Upon hearing this, Subaru runs for his life, but the bullies easily catch up and start slashing him with their swords. They injure him several times, forcing him to beg for his life and cry out in pain. When he drops to the floor, the bullies still don't stop. They begin punching and kicking him ruthlessly. Once they're finally done with the torment, one of the bullies readies his power to eliminate Subaru for good. But this is when a door appears out of nowhere, slicing a bully in half who was in the way. It is a bronze door of trial, which leaves everyone stunned and speechless. But they become even more shocked when the door changes to silver, then gold, and ultimately a rainbow door, which has never been seen before. The bullies finally realize that the biggest and most powerful door has arrived on Earth, and they rush towards it. But Subaru has already dragged himself to the handle. He lost this opportunity 3 years ago, but he isn't going to let it slip now. As he opens the door, he remembers all the humiliation, beating, and torment he has suffered through the years. Subaru immediately jumps in and finds himself in a different universe, where a purple alien with a rainbow on his head approaches and greets him. The purple alien gently taps Subaru's head and inserts a finger in there, causing a wave of energy to pass through the fallen loser. As Subaru's system gets a new update, several of his deformities are cured. His legs, myopia, and most essentially, that embarrassing face. After a CPR is performed, Subaru jolts back to life, a completely healthy person, and the first thing he sees is the creepy alien standing next to him. He is left stunned and finally realizes that he crossed the door and has entered another realm. But Subaru is also terrified of the purple alien with a freaking rainbow across his face. He then remembers one of Hirosaka's interviews, as that guy spent more time at the studio than actually fighting infernal creatures. The reporter asked about what it's like beyond the door, and Hirosaka, with a slight smile, revealed that he was in a medieval castle covered in gold. It was the home of the Master, a being who lives inside a door of trial and rules over the realm. Hirosaka also revealed that one doesn't immediately become a player upon entering the door. They also have to overcome the trials and be acknowledged by the Master. In the present, Subaru looks around and sees that there's no building around him, and it's all vast emptiness. He then glances at the purple alien and speculates if he's the master of this realm. Subaru also worries that he'll have to go through insanely tough trials and wonders what they could be. He once again remembers Hirosaka's interview, where the gold player revealed that the master of his door was a knight shrouded in gold. A confused Hirosaka struck him with his sword, and this earned him the master's acknowledgement due to his bravery. Hirosaka eventually gained some of his master's powers, a weapon he still carries to this day. Subaru, who's still deep in thought, finally comes to the realization that the trial is to strike the master once. But he's terrified of the alien-like being and doesn't have the backbone to go and do it for real. The master, meanwhile, sits on his chair and is bored to death by Subaru's lack of action. His initial plan was to remain mysterious and not speak a word, but Subaru's incompetence has forced him to open his mouth. The first thing he says is a straight-up violation of Subaru, asking if he forgot to update his brain while fixing everything else. He then asks the boy to come towards him and strike him once, after which he can finally share some of his powers. Upon hearing this, Subaru almost soils his pants again, and to buy more time, he questions what kind of door has rainbow colors. But this only angers the master, and he responds by unleashing some of his powers, almost hitting Subaru. He then urges the boy to come and fight, saying he missed his important sleep for this. But the pathetic loser doesn't even flinch. He just sits there like a background character waiting for relevance. Realizing Subaru's too scared to throw hands, the master ditches the warm-up and unleashes a barrage of red swords from the sky. He then presents Subaru with two choices: pick up a sword and face him, or return through the door and make way for someone more worthy. Subaru thinks for a while and finally gets up on his feet, but he immediately turns back and heads towards the door, ready to leave. The master is shocked by his cowardice, and once again asks if that's what he really wants, but Subaru says he's too scared to confront him. He then grabs the door handle and prepares to open it when suddenly the master calls him scum, a word which Subaru has heard all his life. He has been called that by his brother, his bullies, and even his own parents. All of a sudden, this lights a fire inside Subaru, and he gets a flashback of all the times he has been tormented by the people around him. He then immediately lets go of the handle and turns back, ready to confront the alien. A fired-up Subaru says he's tired of people always looking down on him just because they have more power. He also mentions how much it hurts when he's beaten, humiliated, and treated like he's no human. The master, realizing his trash talk is hitting hard, throws even more insults at the boy, getting him angrier than King Kong stuck in traffic with no bananas. The master calls him scum one more time, finally sending Subaru over the edge, and he responds by darting towards the master and striking him hard in the face. Despite the painful blow, the alien is over the moon that Subaru finally found the courage to hit him. He says that he always knew the boy had hatred inside him, which was flowing through his punch. He then declares that Subaru has passed the trial and immediately sinks his teeth into his shoulder to share powers. This causes Subaru immense pain, and he wonders why he's being punished despite having passed the trial. But since the rage inside him still burns, he retaliates by biting the master in return, although it has little to no effect on him. The master instead laughs and says that Subaru is quite the specimen, and decides to give him a bonus for this act. He once again bites the boy and shares some more of his powers. Once the transformation is complete, Subaru drops to the ground, convulsing like a TikToker trying to fake a reaction for clout. The master then reveals that his name is Vanquish, and says he enjoyed today a lot. At the end of the trail, Subaru becomes a level 1 player as he has inherited the abilities of the vampire elder, Vanquish. An announcement says that the trial realm will now disappear, and Subaru will have to exit through the door within 30 seconds. A confused Subaru opens his eyes, which have become rainbow-colored for the first time, but he still can't move as his body is paralyzed. Before he can act, the 30 seconds run out, and the ground beneath him caves, plunging him into the dark abyss. Back in the real world, the Rainbow Gate disappears right before the bullies, making them believe that Subaru failed the trial. They are enraged that a miserable loser like him was given such an opportunity instead of them. Just as the bullies turn around to leave, a bright light emits behind them, and out comes a completely transformed Subaru. He has risen from the darkness and has become the only rainbow player in the world. Seeing all his injuries healed, the bullies immediately realize that Subaru passed the trial inside the gate. One of them, named Sawatari, cannot contain his jealousy any longer and charges at Subaru with his sword, intending to delete him from existence. Sawatari is certain that the rainbow door was meant for him, and Subaru stole it, so he declares war on him and proceeds to finish him off with his mighty bronze sword. Sawatari swings it with impeccable technique, giving all he has, and Subaru becomes certain that this is his end for him. But all of a sudden, his eyes turn colorful and a mysterious energy takes over him, prompting him to easily evade the sword attack. This enrages Sawatari even more, and he starts swinging his sword even faster, but Subaru is able to see them in slow motion. He dodges each attack like he's the main character from The Matrix, and continues doing so without breaking a sweat. Even Subaru is stunned by his new abilities, and he wonders how he can dodge the attacks of an experienced bronze player. This goes on for a while until Subaru has had enough, and he impulsively grabs Sawatari's arm, urging him to stop. But the act of defiance infuriates the bully even more, as no one had ever stood up to him like this before, let alone grab his arm. Subaru also becomes frightened as he still doesn't know the full extent of his powers. He tries to apologize to Sawatari, despite enduring a near-fatal beating just hours earlier. But just as he lets his guard down, Sawatari takes advantage. He knees Subaru in the chest, followed by a deadly punch to the face. The impact hurls Subaru a few feet away, and in normal circumstances, he would have been knocked out cold. But this time, he doesn't feel a thing, as if his body has become invincible to attacks. Suddenly, his eyes glow green, and he receives a tutorial in his system, explaining that HP is the amount of health he has remaining. As a level 1 player, 173 is the total amount of HP, and it has now been reduced to 155 because of the 2 recent punches. The system reveals that once it reaches 0, Subaru will become vulnerable, so he should stay out of battle or avoid damage. Stunned, the miserable Subaru realizes this is how players see the world, like they're living inside an iOS device, complete with pop-ups, updates, and zero privacy. Sawatari, meanwhile, has had enough. His pride has never taken a hit like this, especially not from a guy who literally soiled his pants just a few hours ago. He decides to use his ultimate skill, the Red Rose, which is basically a large ball of fire capable of obliterating infernal creatures. Sawatari uses all of his energy and brews a massive red rose, which he hurls at Subaru at full speed, intending to finish him off. The impact creates a massive explosion, and the bullies think that they've finally got rid of the boy for good. But when the dust clears, Subaru is still standing on his feet. He checks his system and learns that the blast reduced 34 HP, and if he continues to be on the receiving end, he will soon run out of energy and die. Sawatari, on the other hand, is left in disbelief at how his most powerful skill wasn't able to finish off this scrawny little boy. His bully friend, who has now started to get worried with all this violence, urges him to call it a night and go home. But Sawatari's pride won't let him back down. There's no way he's accepting defeat from a pathetic loser who's basically the campus punchline. Sawatari insists that Subaru must be eliminated before he levels up and becomes stronger, so he hurls a special rope that quickly wraps around and restrains him. Subaru, now in deep trouble, tries to break free but fails to do so, and his system reveals that it's an ash wire, the same rope that was used to hang him in class a few hours ago. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Sawatari lunges at his opponent with his sword, while a frightened Subaru stands there without doing anything. At the last second, he realizes he has to use his skill to avoid damage, but the problem is that he doesn't know how to activate it. Soon, Sawatari approaches him and lands a deadly strike, which, in normal circumstances, would be enough to eliminate any mortal or even an infernal beast. Subaru also closes his eyes to prepare for the inevitable. But in a shocking turn, several red blades emerge from his body and block the strike, showcasing his immense power. Then, out of nowhere, Vanquish extends his arm and says he's going to teach Subaru how to use his powers, but just this one time. He explains about the skill known as blood mold, using which Subaru can mold his blood for a total of 10 seconds, and right now it's molded into several blades. Vanquish also urges him to ignite his hatred and channel it as a source of strength against his enemy. After the alien departs, Subaru is once again left on his own, and Sawatari continues his onslaught. The bully once again calls him a scum, and even blames him for the death of his friend, who was sliced apart by the door a few hours ago. Upon hearing this, Subaru is left fuming, as he was the one who was being assaulted by the bullies for no apparent reason, and was on the verge of death. Sawatari responds by saying he should have just accepted his death, as no one cares about him, and he's a pathetic loser, and a waste of oxygen. These words from the bully finally send Subaru over the edge, and he channels his hatred to ignite his skill from deep within. He starts radiating rainbow waves like he's about to drop the ultimate anime opening, then launches a punch so strong it snaps Sawatari's mighty sword clean in half. Without missing a beat, he follows it up with another punch straight to the bully's face, sending him flying through the air like a badminton shuttle. When Sawatari finally lands back on Earth, the other bully is left in complete disbelief, and he starts shivering in fear. Subaru is also not done yet, so he slowly approaches the two to finish them off for good. But the scared bully immediately grabs his unconscious friend using an ash wire and bolts away from there like Spider-Man himself. Along the way, he wonders how a level 1 player could get this strong, as a single punch from Subaru obliterated his powerful friend like a cockroach under a slipper. Subaru, meanwhile, cannot believe that he has finally defeated his bullies and sent them running away in fear. He falls to his knees in relief, as this is the first time in his life he has stood up and fought back against his tormentors. The only thing he's worried about is the lifeless body of one of the bullies, which has been sliced in half due to the arrival of the Rainbow Door. The next morning, news reporters from all across the city swarm the body and start speculating if an infernal creature is on the loose. But the sharply dressed and handsome gold player, Hirasaka, arrives on the scene and calmly explains that he conducted thorough research on the area and determined that this wasn't the work of any creature. Soon, the registration card of the deceased player is found, and everyone learns that he was a bronze player, so the perpetrator must have been of a higher rank. But Hirasaka gets a disturbing feeling as he knows something mightier and more powerful is behind this, something that has never been seen before. Elsewhere, Taiga enters Subaru's tiny shack to look for him, as he still hasn't returned home from last night's errands, and hasn't read any of his texts either. As an enraged Taiga scrolls through his phone, he comes upon the news that a bronze player was eliminated last night by a mysterious person. Taiga zooms in on the guy's photo and realizes he was one of the bullies who were tormenting Subaru the other day. This immediately sends him into a fit of rage, as he deduces that his half-brother is the culprit, and he has become a new player. Taiga shows his jealousy by turning into his player form and unleashing a punch so extra that it obliterates the shack like a YouTuber smashing their setup after losing a sponsorship. In Shinagawa City, there is the Japan Players Association headquarters, the official organization that manages the gates and the players who have awakened their powers in this country. Hundreds of players are chilling in the premises, some dressed as cosplay characters while others are wielding massive hammers as if they're about to confront Thanos. Soon, Subaru enters the premises, still in his green tracksuit, which is now torn and shredded, but he still wears it, believing he's some sort of hippie. As he takes a good look at the place, a charming player at the reception congratulates him on awakening his power and asks if he's here for the registration. She explains that in Japan, one cannot raid a gate if they're not a member of the Players Association, as one can only gain levels in those gated zones. Upon hearing this, the loser Subaru recalls last night's elimination, which is now being labeled as a homicide, and the entire country is searching for the perpetrator. He knows that if a player dies, it is the duty of the other players to launch an investigation and bring the accused person to justice as soon as possible. That means gold-ranked players may come after him, including his ruthless brother, Taiga, and if that happens, Subaru doesn't stand a chance. The only way out of this is by leveling up, and that is possible by registering himself and raiding as many gates as possible. Once Subaru gives his approval, the reception girl explains that there are 3 main points one should always remember. Raiding gates will help one level up. The more stars on the gate, the higher the difficulty is, and finally, the stars that drop after destroying a gate can be cashed out. Upon hearing this, a broke Subaru pulls out a star from his pocket like it's a crumpled coupon and asks if he can exchange it for money. It's the same star Sawatari dropped after getting folded like laundry by Subaru the night before, but the receptionist is left in shock, and she questions where he found it. Nervous, Subaru makes up a fake story that right after he became a player, an infernal gate appeared in front of him, and he raided it to obtain a star. But the reception girl reveals that if an unregistered player raids a gate, it is considered a crime which could lead to 5 years in prison or a hefty fine of 1 million yen. At the police station, Taiga shows up in his fancy attire as if he's heading to a red carpet at the Oscars. One of the cops is enamored by his presence and reveals that Taiga is one of only 7 gold-ranked players in the country, giving him god-level status. The cop asks what he can do to help, and in response, Taiga asks for the evidence and the witnesses for the player homicide case from last night. Back at the Players Association headquarters, Subaru is sweating at the thought of spending 5 years behind bars, and he stammers to come up with a response. The receptionist once again repeats that in normal circumstances, a raid by an unregistered player is a serious offense, making him also soil his pants again. But all of a sudden, she changes her tone and says she will let him off the hook this time, and even agrees to exchange his star for cash. A delighted Subaru thanks her, after which he checks the exchange rates and learns that the cash prize for 1 star is 1 million yen, whereas for 5 stars is 100 million yen. After pocketing his earnings, Subaru suddenly gets that money-hungry sparkle in his eyes and sets off to find more doors to raid. But he soon ends up stumbling across the last place you'd expect an infernal gate to pop up inside a shopping mall. Subaru doesn't find one of them gates, but what he does find is a barbershop and a clothes store, something more important to him right now. He checks his appearance and realizes he needs a serious overhaul, so, without thinking much, he enters the stores one after another and goes on a spending spree like there's no tomorrow at all. By the end of the day, Subaru looks like a whole new person. The former loser now actually resembles a college student who showers, owns real clothes, and maybe even gets replies to his texts. He tops it all off by grabbing a Starbucks coffee, which has practically become a college rite of passage these days. As Subaru sips on the overpriced beverage, tears roll down his face as he's experiencing this kind of freedom for the first time in his miserable life. He thus makes it his mission to find more gates and raid them to maintain his status as a player and live a lavish lifestyle. As Subaru is lost in his thoughts, he is suddenly confronted by his half-brother, Taiga, who has appeared out of thin air. Subaru realizes that his truth has been exposed, so he tries to make a run for it. But Taiga, being the quicker and more experienced of the two, immediately catches him and sends him crashing down on the road outside. The commotion causes a toddler to begin crying, while his mother is scared to death as they've accidentally entered a war zone between 2 brothers. Subaru struggles back to his feet, blood dripping down his face, and quickly activates his blood mold skill. He tries to pull several parked vehicles toward him, hoping to create a makeshift shield to protect himself and the civilians, but at just level 1, he doesn't have the strength yet. the blood mold snaps under the strain, and the vehicles fall uselessly to the ground, leaving him exposed and humiliated in front of everyone. Taiga also gets infuriated as no one has ever tried to retaliate against him, so he declares that he's going to eliminate Subaru once and for all. At this critical moment, rage starts to channel inside Subaru, and his eyes begin glowing with colorful energy, indicating that he's not going to back down without a fight. As the two engage in an intense stare-down, the civilians become alerted to the upcoming danger and quickly evacuate the area. Subaru wonders how his younger brother was able to track him down, then suddenly realizes it must have been his phone's GPS, which he had turned on to check his bank balance. Taiga says it doesn't matter anymore as he readies his most powerful weapon, the Golden Arm, to eliminate his brother from existence. The sight of the deadly weapon sends chills down Subaru's spine, and it finally dawns on him that his brother is serious about deleting him. Just as Subaru ponders his pathetic existence, Vanquish pops into his mind like an unskippable NPC and dishes out more tutorials about his powers. He reveals that the skill Blood Mold will convert Subaru's mana points or MP into blood, which he can control into whatever he wants. It is a very unique and powerful skill, but if Subaru overdoes it, he will drain in no time and become vulnerable to attacks. After saying this, Vanquish disappears from there, and Subaru gets ready to fight his ruthless brother in the middle of the busy streets. But before that, both of their attributes and powers are shown like a Street Fighter game, revealing that while Subaru is a level 1 noob, Taiga is level 23 with maxed attributes in every section. The odds are heavily in his favor, and only a miracle can save Subaru from the jaws of death, as there's no one to help him this time around. Soon, the fight begins, and Taiga uses his Golden Arm, which is his finisher move, to unleash a devastating wave of energy in his brother's direction. The blast kicks up a massive storm of dust, swallowing the entire area, and in Taiga's mind, there's no way the noob survived, let alone dodged it. But when the dust eventually clears, his expression quickly changes as it turns out Subaru has used his Blood Mold skill to create a rope and swing away from there in the nick of time. He remembered the bully from the night before pulling the same move to escape like a budget Spider-Man, so Subaru dug deep, trusted his instincts, and pulled off some quick thinking of his own. Taiga is visibly enraged by his inability to finish off the fight in one go, so he launches yet another devastating strike. But just like the previous time, Subaru dodges it again using his Blood Mold skill. He, however, knows that if he gets caught just one time, it's over for him, as Taiga's Golden Arm is the most powerful weapon in this country. The unhinged brother's starting to get annoyed, so he tries to mess with Subaru's head by mocking his abilities, saying all he can do is swing around like some oversized bug. He vows to end this fight as soon as possible and rushes forward to land a punch. But he's stopped in his tracks when a blanket of thick red smoke engulfs him, which turns out to be Subaru using his Blood Mold technique again. The level 1 noob then appears behind Taiga and has the perfect opportunity to unleash a powerful strike, which could end the battle once and for all. As he prepares to deliver the final blow, Subaru is flooded with memories of all the times he was bullied and broken by his brother. That pain, once a weakness, now fuels his rage, and he channels every ounce of pent-up frustration, just as Vanquish had taught him. Subaru then steps forward and throws a punch straight at his brother's chest, fully expecting to shatter bones and egos, but all he manages to do is crack his own knuckles, because level 23 Taiga might as well be made of reinforced concrete. Subaru is in complete disbelief as the same attack which knocked out Sawatari is completely useless against Taiga, showcasing just how formidable he is. As he stands there shell-shocked, Taiga takes the opportunity to strike him in the body, followed by another brutal shot. This decreases Subaru's HP devastatingly, and now he's only left with 12, meaning he's very close to losing his powers, and eventually death. With time running out, Subaru pulls a last resort trick. He uses his Blood Mold to cover Taiga's eyes with smoke, and then fires several sharp blades at him. But it still doesn't work as the gold-ranked player easily shrugs them off. Now, Subaru is out of options as he thinks to himself that these were the hardest blades he could make at his current level, and it still didn't work. Taiga has insane speed, deadly attacking power, and formidable defense, which puts him in a completely different league. As his confidence dwindles, Subaru realizes that even after risking his life to become a player, it is still not enough, and he'll always remain a loser. Taiga, meanwhile, is lost in his own thoughts, and he's genuinely impressed by the blood mold skill his brother has learnt. He's aware that if Subaru levels up, he'll be a menace and a formidable opponent, so it's wise to finish him off right now. A determined Taiga then grabs his loser brother by the hair and jabs him in the face so hard that it sends ripples through the area, almost like an earthquake. The hit doesn't finish him off, and Subaru somehow scrambles back to his feet, but his HP is hanging at a tragic 5, which basically means his miserable existence is one sneeze away from being permanently deleted. Smelling victory, Taiga throws another punch with the same power and energy as before. But when the dust clears, Subaru is still standing, alive and well. In a shocking twist, he used his skill to create a sticky cushion over his chest, which completely absorbed the impact of the punch and rendered it useless. An infuriated Taiga takes his hand back to prepare for another strike, but the cushion sticks to his hand, much like a used chewing gum. As the gold-ranked player struggles to get it off, Subaru uses his last mana points to create several more of these cushions, which stick to Taiga and slowly limit his movement. Subaru then recalls his master's teachings, who said that the blood mold can only be used for 10 seconds. He thus keeps forming more cushions which ultimately cover Taiga from top to bottom, rendering him temporarily blind and even causing him breathing difficulties. Then, with the last ounce of HP and MP in his body, Taiga creates a rope, which he uses to swing away from there, as he knows he cannot defeat his brother in a one-on-one battle. Seconds later, the blood mold begins to wear off of Taiga's body, and he's finally free from the sticky substance poured all over him. But as he looks around, he realizes that Subaru has already escaped, sending him into a fit of extreme rage. Taiga throws a full-blown tantrum, wrecking everything in sight like a kid who just got his game console taken away, all while vowing to track Subaru down and finish the job for real next time. Amidst this, he is suddenly approached by the other 6 gold players, including the handsome gentleman, Kurosaka. They immediately wrap a golden chain around Taiga and put him under arrest for going on a rampage and destroying public property, which is a misuse of their powers. Meanwhile, on top of a nearby building, a bruised and battered Subaru sits alone, reflecting on the brutal fight he barely escaped. He's gutted, not just because he lost, but because even with his newfound powers, he couldn't leave a scratch on his brother. To make things worse, his brand new shirt is torn to shreds, and he suddenly remembers that he left all his shopping bags back at the cafe. Now, thanks to Taiga, he has to start from zero all over again, and earn more money to buy the good things he has always desired. But instead of sitting there and feeling sorry for himself, Subaru refocuses, and he reminds himself of the life he left behind, the life where he was bullied, humiliated, and treated like he didn't matter. He swears to himself that he will never go back to that pathetic existence, even if it means he has to battle against much deadlier opponents. From this moment on, Subaru promises to fight harder, raid more gates, level up faster, and push himself beyond his limits. He is certain that one day, he'll rise above everyone and become the strongest player the world has ever seen. In another part of town, an infernal gate pops up, and a bunch of clout-hungry players surround a lone female player who's already claimed the raid permit. They start talking trash, calling her weak and telling her to step aside so they can swoop in and steal the reward. But the girl, who turns out to be a bronze-ranked player named Sayaka, isn't here to play nice. Instead of backing down, she cracks her knuckles like she's in an action movie trailer and gets ready to show these gate-crashing bullies exactly why you don't underestimate a girl with something to prove. But a few seconds later, Sayaka gets beaten up by the bullies, as she's just a level 8 bronze while the bully group's average is 13, making them significantly stronger. They demand that she hand over the raid permit without causing any more trouble, but she vehemently refuses and has flashbacks to the time when she was kicked out of her own group for being too weak. This annoys the bully group, and they proceed to attack her once more when a random player shows up out of nowhere, wearing torn clothes and looking like he just got kicked out of a side quest. He is none other than the rainbow player, Subaru, who has come for his first gate raid, so he can level up as quickly as possible and face his brother again. The bully squad is confused by his appearance, and one of them tries to swat him away, but Subaru uses his blood mold skill to make the guy trip and fall to the ground. Taken aback, The rest of the group questions what level he is, to which Subaru truthfully reveals that he's just a level 1 player who has come to raid the Infernal Gate. Upon realizing that he's just a noob, the bullies assume he just got lucky the last time and charge at him. But Subaru, using just a fraction of his skill, manages to take them down one by one. Despite the fact that they are levels above him, Subaru doesn't even break a sweat and keeps humiliating them with the only skill he knows, much like a one-trick pony. While all of this is going on, Subaru thinks to himself that these bullies are much weaker and slower than the last two opponents he faced, Sawatari and Taiga. The deadly battles against them have molded him into a more experienced and resilient version of himself, as fighting is not just about powers, it's also about critical thinking. Meanwhile, Subaru has wiped the floor clean with all the bullies as he easily dodges their attacks and knocks them out over and over again with his blood mold. Now, there's only one member standing, and he decides to use his ultimate skill, which turns out to be a shotgun. He points it toward Subaru and unleashes a powerful shot, which sends several bullets flying towards him at an incredibly fast speed. But just when everyone thinks this new guy is in trouble, he manages to easily block every single bullet by making several bubble wraps appear on his face. Subaru then strikes the bully with one deadly blow, knocking him to the ground faster than a folding chair at a WWE match. In the aftermath of this skirmish, a shell-shocked Sayaka wonders how a level 1 player could defeat an entire group of experienced players without much effort. She is certain that his starting stats must be really high, meaning he's not a bronze or silver player. As she ponders upon these questions, Subaru casually undresses the leader of the bullies he just knocked out and wears his jacket like a trophy. Sayaka calls him out for stealing others' clothes, but he just smiles awkwardly, fully embracing this new thug life he has been thrown into. Subaru then opens the door without saying a word and steps into the other side, ready to face whatever comes toward him. He checks the stats and learns that the difficulty level of this gate is 2 stars, and there's only about 5 minutes before the creatures arrive. Subaru also observes his surroundings and thinks to himself how peaceful and beautiful the scenery is, completely different from the chaotic city they live in. As he's lost in his thoughts, Sayaka barges through the door and locks it, determined to earn some stars for herself. The system then displays an announcement that since the gate is locked, the players can't leave before they finish off all the infernal creatures. Subaru is confused as to why this strange girl has entered the door with him, but Sayaka explains that she had already reserved it through the official website. She explains that since players often clash over gate raids in a fight for dominance, the government launched a website where gates can be reserved in advance to prevent unnecessary conflict. Subaru realizes that he has interrupted someone else's gate raid and apologizes for the same, saying he's just a level 1 player and didn't know the rules. He then pleads to be a part of the raid, as he desperately needs to level up and become stronger. Sayaka, fully aware of how crucial leveling up is, agrees to let Subaru stick around, but only if she gets 70% of the stars after they wipe out the creatures. Subaru, desperate and broke, agrees without hesitation, and the two shake hands like they're closing a $1 million deal. Sayaka then casually introduces herself by sharing her real name, but when it's Subaru's turn, he panics and blurts out a fake name to stay under the radar of Vanquish. Their moment of peace is interrupted when a random rock comes flying at them out of nowhere like it's got a personal grudge, but Sayaka casually punches it into pieces midair. It turns out the two were so engrossed in their conversation that they didn't notice the timer running out, and now a horde of infernal creatures is charging at them. Since the gate's difficulty is only 2 stars, the creatures inside aren't exactly top-tier threats, and most of them look like Pokémon that were born in the radiation zone of Chernobyl. Sayaka, fired up and itching for a fight, tells Subaru to stand back and then launches into a full-on rampage, tearing through the creatures with insane speed like she's been waiting her whole life for this moment. None of them stand a chance, and the poor creatures are wiped out before they can even lift a finger to defend themselves. Watching the massacre unfold, Subaru is genuinely impressed and can hardly believe that someone like Sayaka can wipe out creatures with just a single punch. She responds that it's her ultimate skill, known as Instant Void, which is not as effective against ranked players like the bullies from earlier, but absolutely lethal in close-range combat. As Sayaka brags about her powers, all the knocked-out creatures suddenly awaken and surround her, angrier than ever. Subaru is stunned at what's happening, to which a nervous Sayaka reveals that the instant void can knock out opponents for a maximum of 3 seconds, and it is effective against opponents up to 3 levels higher than the user. This means that she has 3 seconds to defeat the opponent for good or run away from there, or else she'll be in trouble, just like she's in right now. As the angry creatures surround Sayaka and prepare to strike, she calls out to Subaru aka a Vanquish for help. But he's too far from her, as she was the one who asked him to stay back and let her handle the job. Now, with Sayaka on the verge of being overwhelmed, Subaru steps up and activates his favorite skill, Blood Mold, his eyes lighting up with a burst of colorful energy. Subaru then unleashes several ropes towards the creatures and grabs each of them by the neck, leaving them confused and angry. Even Sayaka is baffled by the strange skill and the fact that Vanquish is emitting rainbow-like rays from his body, which she has never seen before. Before the creatures can even react, Subaru yanks the ropes with everything he's got, flinging them into the air like stuffed animals at a carnival game. They crash back down so hard that all of them are eliminated on the spot, much to Subaru's delight. In the aftermath of the battle, Subaru receives a flurry of notifications in his system. As it turns out, he has leveled up not once but 3 times, taking him to level 4. His Blood Mold skill also reaches level 2, meaning the effect duration is increased from 10 seconds to 15 seconds. That's not all. When Subaru checks under his jacket, he realizes all the bruises and cuts from his brother's beatdown have miraculously healed, and now he's as healthy as a gym rat on pre-workout. As Subaru celebrates his win, Sayaka runs over, still in shock that he managed to wipe out all the creatures in a single move. She immediately asks him about his technique, but Subaru casually dodges the question, and instead starts praising her instant void skill, calling it incredible for knocking out opponents with just 1 hit. Sayaka humbly points out that her skill isn't that impressive, since it only knocks out opponents for 3 seconds and only works on those up to 3 levels higher than her. But Subaru quickly explains that in close-range combat, she'd be practically unstoppable. She could just keep knocking her opponents out every 3 seconds until they're completely wiped out. Upon hearing this, Sayaka is stunned as she never thought of this technique before, and was only using the instant void to buy her more time. Luckily for her, more creatures appear in the distance, and an excited Sayaka immediately sees it as the perfect opportunity for a practice session. She charges at one of the creatures and drops it with a brutal punch, then patiently waits 3 seconds for it to get back up, only to knock it out again without a hint of mercy. Sayaka repeats the cycle over and over until the poor creature is finally eliminated, leaving her grinning in pure ecstasy like she just discovered her new favorite hobby. She then runs towards the remaining beasts, who are cowering in fear, and begins annihilating them one after another. But as she's busy doing this, something much bigger and badder appears in the distance. It turns out to be the final bosses, a level 18 goblin, which sits on top of a level 12 giant wolf-like creature known as a kobold. Acting tough, Subaru tells Sayaka to take care of the smaller creatures while he handles the final bosses on his own. With the rainbow aura oozing from him, he then confronts the beasts and gets ready to fight, this time without a trace of fear. Subaru rises into the air and lands a series of solid punches on the kobold. But while he's distracted, the cheeky goblin takes aim and fires a powerful arrow at him. Subaru's system immediately flags it as a deadly skill called Foliage, which causes the arrow to split into multiple projectiles midair and rain down toward him. Caught off guard, Subaru burns a massive amount of MP to summon blood cushions around his body. While they absorb most of the impact, a few arrows still break through, striking him and sending him crashing down to the ground. This makes the overconfident Subaru realize that had his blood mold not leveled up, the arrows would have skewered him brutally. Meanwhile, Sayaka watches from a distance, completely hooked by the deadly battle unfolding before her like it's the season finale of her favorite show. She mutters that she wants to jump in and help, but quickly remembers she's just a level 8 bronze player, meaning her attacks would probably bounce off those beasts like paper balls off a tank. Accepting reality, Sayaka decides to continue her training by dealing with the smaller creatures instead. Subaru, on the other hand, conjures up some blades and sends them hurling towards the beasts, hoping it can at least slow them down. But they once again prove useless as the creatures are built like tanks, and their armor is too thick to penetrate. Before he can regroup, The goblin fires another one of his signature arrows, which splits mid-air into hundreds of smaller projectiles. Subaru is forced to react quickly, but in the process, he burns through a massive amount of MP trying to block the incoming storm. At this moment, Subaru realizes that all his attacks are futile, as the two final bosses are cleverly working together to make life difficult for him. The larger kobold beast takes care of close-range combat and evades attacks, while the goblin uses his bow and arrow to send out ranged attacks. As Subaru racks his brain for his next move, his system suddenly detects a new skill named Perforation, snapping him back into high alert. Subaru quickly activates his blood mold to defend against the attack, but the goblin unleashes a massive, deadly arrow that tears through his defenses and pierces straight into his shoulder, leaving a brutal hole in its wake. Subaru barely clings to life after the attack, fully aware that none of his current skills are enough to take down these beasts. He doesn't even have a moment to recover before the goblin draws another massive arrow, aiming straight at him, determined to finish the fight once and for all. Just when it seems all hope is lost, Sayaka bursts onto the scene and lands her instant void punch straight into the level 12 kobold. To everyone's shock, the beast actually drops because while she was busy wiping out the smaller creatures, Sayaka had leveled up to become level 9, turning the tables when it mattered most. On top of that, her knockout time has doubled to 6 seconds, basically turning her into a walking sleep button in close combat. With Sayaka's support fueling his confidence, Subaru wastes no time. He quickly ties up the unconscious kobold with his rope and yanks it with all his strength, sending the giant beast flying through the air before it crashes down with a loud thud. With the kobold eliminated for good, Subaru's system lights up, and he levels up twice, shooting him up to an impressive level 6. His MP and HP also recover, and now he sets his sights on the annoying little goblin who's basically handicapped without his giant beast. Since Subaru's blood mold can transform into anything, he remembers Tega's golden hand and makes a replica of that using his skill. The goblin, who's been nervously watching the chaos unfold, desperately fires an arrow, but Subaru's blood hand smacks it out of the air, shattering it into pieces. Wasting no time, Subaru then charges in and lands a thunderous punch straight to the goblin's chest, hitting him so hard that the poor thing coughs up whatever was left in his stomach before finally collapsing for good. Since Subaru managed to defeat a level 17 opponent, which is way above his own rank, his system rewards him with 3 more level ups, shooting him up to level 9. His blood mold skill also levels up to 3, allowing its effects to last up to 20 seconds, making him even more dangerous in battle. Sayaka cannot believe that her ally managed to take down the two beasts so easily, and all she can mutter is that they won. With this, the raid is finally complete, and Subaru maxes out on most of his stats, including strength, stamina, and luck. The system then announces that the zone will disappear in 30 minutes, so the players must exit through the gate. Outside, the bullies have finally regained consciousness, and the leader of the group is livid that the mysterious player not only knocked them out, but also stole his jacket to further humiliate him. He vows to take revenge on the guy, or possibly eliminate him, once he comes through the gate. But as the bullies are discussing, their jaws hit the floor when they realize the raid is already over. It's only been 15 minutes, and a 2-star gate like this usually takes 2 full hours to clear, even for a decent team. Before they can even process the madness, the gate opens and out come Subaru and Sayaka, completely unscathed, looking fresh like they just came back from a spa day instead of a death match. At that moment, the gate announces that the raid was completed 3 hours and 11 minutes ahead of schedule, and this extra time will be added to the sky clock. It's revealed that a massive countdown has appeared in the sky, one that, when it hits 0, will likely be the end of the world. However, the faster the players complete gate raids, the more time they can add to the sky clock, which has 268 days remaining as of now. Seeing the announcement, the bullies finally realize that the two managed to clear the gate in record time, but they still can't wrap their heads around how a level 1 and a level 8 newbie pulled off a 2-star raid 1 that normally recommends players be at least level 10 to even stand a chance. The leader of the group, who had been dead set on taking revenge against Subaru for stealing his jacket, suddenly changes his tune. He awkwardly says Subaru can keep it, realizing that this scrawny-looking rookie has powers unlike anything they've seen before. The bullies instead congratulate them on their victory, and completely forget the fact that they were ruthlessly attacked by Subaru just moments earlier. And if that's not all, they even bow down to the two as a sign of respect before heading their own ways. Seconds later, the infernal gate disintegrates into thin air, and 2 stars drop to the ground, which Sayaka picks up happily. She cannot wait to exchange it for money, but a nervous Subaru requests her to cash out in her name, and he'll take the money later. This confuses Sayaka as they had agreed to split the reward 70-30, but an increasingly anxious Subaru changes the topic and leads her to his favorite place in the world, the Starbucks outlet. As the two chat over coffee, Sayaka bluntly asks if his real name is Vanquish, causing Subaru to spit out his coffee in disbelief. She says that she already knew it from their first conversation, as the name Vanquish was way too dramatic. He acted like he was hiding secrets, and more importantly, no level 1 rookie hits like that unless they're either glitched or lying. Sayaka now demands to know who he actually is, but the loser Subaru is too scared to answer. He simply holds his coffee and stutters like a newborn kid. Sensing his hesitation, Sayaka quickly reassures him that she's not accusing or doubting him. After fighting alongside Subaru, she's come to see the kind of person he really is, someone who risked everything to protect her more than once. With a small smile, Sayaka then says she'd like to keep going on raids with him, and maybe even be friends, if he's okay with that. She adds that if he ever needs help, she'll be there without question, even though she's pretty sure he doesn't need someone as useless as her. Upon hearing that she wants to be friends, Subaru's eyes well up, and he recalls all the times he had been bullied and humiliated by the people around him. This is the first time someone has wished to be friends with him, so Subaru accepts it in a heartbeat and even reveals his real name. He then starts explaining the roller coaster of events that he's been through in the past 2 days, from getting absolutely hammered by the bullies, to the Rainbow Door, to Vanquish, to getting framed for a homicide. Subaru also talks about his unhinged half-brother, Tega, who stole his golden door and became the formidable player that the country now admires. Subaru admits that this is the reason why he wants to level up, so that he can confront his evil brother and put an end to his tyranny once and for all. Tired of being a punching bag his whole life, Subaru is determined to turn things around now that he's finally a player, aiming to live like a normal person for once. Upon hearing all of this, Sayaka is shocked, but she understands where he's coming from as she has suffered from something similar in her past. As she discloses her own backstory, Sayaka reveals that she also has 2 sisters, both of whom are silver players, much experienced and powerful than her. The 3 initially started out as a team, and they raided several gates to become more powerful, wealthy, and famous. But as time passed, the more experienced sisters saw her as a burden in their gate raids and eventually kicked her out like expired food from a fridge. Now, Sayaka's only goal is to get stronger so that she can make her sisters regret their decision. Since both of them have similar goals, Sayaka gets riled up and says they have to become stronger together by raiding several raids. Subaru agrees to it, and the two shake hands, promising to never betray or abandon each other, even at difficult times. At the Players Association headquarters, a serious meeting is underway among the gold-ranked players. With Tega still behind bars for his earlier outburst, the remaining 6 are left to figure out how to manage without him. One overconfident player scoffs, claiming they're better off without Tega anyway, as he's arrogant and reckless. But another quickly cuts in, pointing out the harsh reality. They're the only ones capable of handling 5-star gates, so they must shoulder more responsibility. Hirasaka nods in agreement, saying they'll just have to pull some overtime until Tega gets out of jail, like it's a normal shift change and not monster slaying overtime. He adds that they'll need to drag in some of the silver-ranked teams to help with the 5-star raids, because if they don't, they'll be swamped faster than a noob who skipped the tutorial. One of the players voices concern about whether it's even safe to send silver-ranked players into 5-star gate raids, but Hirasaka calmly reassures him that a squad of at least 10 players, each at level 30 or higher, should be able to complete the task. He then pulls out a map of Japan, which shows that there are currently 7 5-star gates that require urgent attention. Since there are only 6 right now, Hirasaka assigns one of the gates to Team Julieta, a silver-ranked team led by their charismatic leader, level 38 Hizaki. Later, Subaru and Sayaka also arrive at the headquarters with the intention of cashing out their money. They bump into Team Juliet along the way, and Subaru immediately senses that they're a formidable team, capable of dismantling the toughest of gates. He wonders who they are, to which Sayaka reveals that they're Team Julieta, one of the best silver-ranked teams in the country. The curious Subaru wonders why they've come here, but Sayaka changes the topic and leads him towards the counter where they can exchange their stars for cash. Along the way, she checks her phone and finds out that a 2-star infernal gate has appeared nearby, which they can easily take down together. Subaru excitedly asks where it is, and Sayaka responds that it's in the nearby city of Meguro. A few hours later, a battered and one-armed Subaru cradles a lifeless Sayaka in his arms. Both of them are torn and bloodied, as if mauled by a force far beyond anything they have ever faced. Desperately, Subaru tries to stop the bleeding, pouring all his strength into saving her, but the wounds are far too severe, and even his powers can't reverse the damage. Subaru is absolutely shattered that the only friend in his life is slowly passing away, so he confronts the perpetrator and vows to take revenge against them. Like an absolute enigma, he uses the blood mold skill to reattach his arm, which was lying on the ground, and then stares at his opponent with fiery eyes. Subaru vows to kill this perpetrator and is ready to go to any lengths to achieve that. 2 hours earlier, Subaru and Sayaka enter the Infernal Gate in Meguro and learn that it is completely different from the one they had last raided. This one has a long, narrow path of steps that leads down to a dark basement, the kind of place where horror movies usually begin. A curious Subaru asks if it is possible to know about the zone before entering the gate, and Sayaka reveals that entering is free as long as the gate is not locked from the inside. This means that a player is allowed to enter and gather as much information as they want about the zone, so that the other teams can prepare for it accordingly. As the duo observes the place, Sayaka excitedly says that the narrow steps would suit her ability, as she would get to engage in more close combat. Subaru agrees with her, and the two appear to be confident about their chances, especially since they're a good team who look out for each other. Subaru then closes the door behind him, and the system announces that the quest will now begin. Shortly after, the ground begins to shake, and a large horde of skeletal soldiers comes marching towards the players, as if someone just promised them free Wi-Fi. Subaru peeks at them through the railing, but then a strange wave of energy hits him, making him realize that something very powerful is down at the bottom. He wonders if it's the final boss or something even more sinister waiting for them. Subaru's train of thought is halted when he gazes upon the skeletal soldiers and realizes that there are way too many of them, even more than the crowd present at a Coldplay concert. Before he can warn his partner about it, one of the creatures lunges at her and unleashes its sword at her face. But the ever-protective Subaru immediately throws a cushion between them, shielding Sayaka from the attack. Although she receives a tiny scar on her face, she then retaliates by delivering one of her brutal punches, sending the creature flying away from there. Immediately after, 2 more skeletal soldiers lunge at Sayaka with their pointed spears, but Subaru steps in once again, using his blood mold skill to shield her. Wasting no time, Sayaka counters with a pair of devastating blows to their faces, smashing them to pieces and proving that their teamwork is starting to click. But when Subaru finds out that every single one of these skeletons is at least level 10, he immediately gets nervous, as it means they have to eliminate them all to be able to escape. Regardless, backing out of it is not an option, so Subaru regains his focus and tells Sayaka that they should focus on their own fights for now, as this way they can defeat the creatures faster. Sayaka agrees, and the two start thrashing the poor skeletal beings like kids beating up a piñata at a birthday party. But despite being immensely superior to the skeletal minions, Subaru is still worried as he had felt a chilling pressure from the bottom level, which was way more intense than the goblin boss. He turns to Sayaka and urges her to pace herself, warning that she might run out of mana points if she keeps going like this. But Sayaka quickly corrects him, pointing out that it should be the other way around. She reminds him that when a player levels up inside a gate, both their HP and mana are fully restored, so instead of holding back, they should go all out and push themselves until they can't level up any further. Convinced that this is the better strategy, Subaru agrees, and the two decide to use up all of their energy to finish off the skeletons one after another. Subaru then unleashes his ultimate power, pouring almost all of his mana into a massive blood tide that surges across the Starkars, freezing every creature in its path. since the effect only lasts up to 20 seconds. Sayaka takes charge and begins bashing the helpless creatures one after another, kicking and stomping on them like she's clearing out a Black Friday sale aisle. By the end of her rampage, Sayaka gets so many eliminations that she levels up 5 times and reaches an impressive 15, making her extremely powerful and skilled. Sayaka deliberately misses some of the creatures, and it's now Subaru's turn to crack them open like a cold beer on a scorching Friday evening. He doesn't even move an inch and launches another blood mold attack, using the last mana in his inventory. But the plan ends up being a success as the skeletons are crushed to pieces and Subaru levels up 7 times consecutively, taking him to level 16. His HP and mana points have also recovered, and now he can launch even deadlier attacks without having to worry about emptying them. As the two celebrate their mini success, a few creatures try to sneak up on Sayaka to attack her, but Subaru obliterates them with a giant spear, much like the goblin boss's signature move. Subaru then warns the overly excited girl that she should never let her guard down, even if there are no enemies in sight for the time being. Now that they have eliminated more than half of the creatures, Subaru suggests they slowly venture downstairs, and Sayaka likes the idea. The two then begin taking out the remaining creatures without taking a single hit and slowly move towards the bottom of the staircase, which is still radiating a strange energy that worries Subaru. They nonetheless continue their onslaught by using all of their mana points, and at the end of the battle, Sayaka reaches level 20, while Subaru follows closely behind at 19. The duo finally reaches the bottom of the staircase, where the final boss reveals itself. A massive skeletal being decked out in a full bridal gown, looking less like a fearsome monster and more like she's late to her own wedding. Subaru and Sayaka watch in horror as their systems flash the terrifying truth: the massive skeleton is a level 29 monster, far beyond anything they're prepared to handle. It wastes no time and immediately launches a flurry of attacks using its tentacle-like hands, giving the duo no time to prepare at all. As Subaru struggles to block the attacks and shield both himself and Sayaka, he quickly realizes the danger the boss is using the wide open space to launch long-range attacks with a freely changing trajectory, making it nearly impossible to predict. Worse yet, Sayaka is practically useless in this fight as her strength lies in close combat, and she's 9 levels lower than the boss, putting her at a huge disadvantage. Despite being badly cornered with no clear way out, Subaru can't shake the feeling that something doesn't add up. He's still skeptical that this boss is the true source of the intense energy he felt earlier, the one that sent chills down his spine. This skeletal boss is definitely powerful and intimidating, but deep down, Subaru was expecting something even more terrifying, something on the level of a true monster, maybe even a level 50 threat. Nonetheless, Subaru knows he can stress about that mystery later, as right now, his main priority is taking down the bridal skeleton while playing bodyguard for Sayaka, who's about as useful against these attacks as a paper shield in a hurricane. Will Subaru be able to fight off and defeat this final boss alone? And even if he manages to defeat this boss, is there something deadlier waiting for him in the darkness? To find out in part 2, type mana points in the comment section. Leave a thumbs up if you liked the video, and subscribe to the channel for similar content. As always, thanks for watching.